Hi everyone, Richard Liu here, editor at NZ Entrepreneur. And today at Innovation Nation, I'm delighted to be talking to Pascal Ibu-Peron. Pascal is the co-founder and director at the Venture Centre up there in Tauranga, based at the base station, I believe. Pascal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Richard. It's great. And yes, we are in sunny Tauranga, and today is very sunny. And I'm not at base station, but I'm there most of the time.
I wonder, Pascal, if you can just tell us a little bit about your role at Venture Centre and also what it is that Venture Centre is all about.
Great. So I'm a co-founder and director. That's the official title. My role is quite diverse. There's a lot of things that we do at Venture Centre. We do events. So sometimes I'm event organizer, like I was last night, organizing the finals of Young Enterprise Scheme in our region. I'm also quite leading the operations for the various programs that we deliver. We also have an open door, so a lot of entrepreneurs come through our doors and come to our clinics. So I am more or less the concierge when this happens. And I also manage and participate in the relationships that we have with the wider network that, like Venture Centre, does entrepreneurship support here in Aotearoa, but also further beyond.
So there's a lot on your plate.
Yes.
Yeah. And Venture Centre is plays a valuable part in the wider innovation ecosystem. As you said, not just in the Bay of Plenty, but also as part of our national ecosystem. So what are some of the key aims or goals of Venture Centre?
I really like how you mentioned the local and national, and I mean, I think I can see also global. I think there's a high level of connection to all that is being done in this innovation world, and we use this word ecosystem. And before I launch into giving a little more detail, I feel that this has been a really big learning from us when we started in 2014, was to actually be part of the ecosystem, and ever since it's been like, how are we part of the ecosystem? So this has been this recurring theme, which is been the biggest learning as an organization. So what we are, I described ourselves a little earlier as an entrepreneurship support organization. It's for us, what sets us maybe a little bit apart from maybe other similar organization using similar description, and sets us apart a little bit locally as well in Tauranga and Bay of Plenty, is our focus on the person but not the idea. So we're very much around building the capability of the entrepreneurs that come in through our doors. They come in through what I was describing earlier. It could be events, programs, meetups. We are also organizers of Startup Weekend. And so what is it that we can do to help these people make their way on their journey as entrepreneurs? So typically, the people that we work with come at various stages, but usually at some stage of their idea. And through the support that they can gain from coming into Venture Centre and navigating the various opportunities for them and meeting mentors or having clinics, they actually start finding their own way on what they need to pursue this idea. And failing is a big part as well. So we try to surround our entrepreneurs and all the communities that support them around this potential fail. And we believe that in focusing our support on their capability, they are better equipped to pick it up again, because the skills and the mindset starts to be within, and therefore they can pick up another idea at some later stage. So basically we bet on the jockey, not on the horse.
I really love what you said about the focus being on the person and not the idea, because, you know, as many entrepreneurs will sort of know, and again, you mentioned we learn through failing, and it's nice to hear that, you know, you understand that entrepreneurship is really a process, and here at NZ Entrepreneur, we believe that to build bigger and better businesses, we first have to build bigger and better entrepreneurs. You know, whereas there are some people who would say, well, you know, if that entrepreneur is not producing this type of business that employs this many people and has, you know, $50 million in foreign, you know, global market share, something like that, then it's not worth it, the time. But Rod Drury, you know, he once said, entrepreneurship is a series of baby steps. So it's really refreshing to hear this come through in your philosophy and how you work with entrepreneurs. It's not just about what they're working on now, but what they could be working on later.
Yes. Yeah. And we are in Tauranga and the Western Bay of Plenty. And that's why it's called Bay of Plenty. There's quite a lot going on here. There is a lot of support. There's some really big organizations that have established a real direction for innovation in our region, and that is really helpful for us to see more technology company, research institute, with priority one being the Economic Development Agency, is doing a great job at corralling those people and the corporates around us here in Tauranga and the Western Bay to actually have a narrative around innovation. And this is very much around what are we going to do with our technology, what are we going to do, themes around future of work. So those conversations are really permeating in our region. And this has been really, really important for us to be a part of this and to especially and seeing it emerge. And it's helped our development to see like where can we be most effective within this layer of activity around our economy, where we look at entrepreneurship sitting in the economy box, right? And for us, it was something around the talent. So Tauranga is got lots going on, but it's a very expensive place to come to if you haven't had enough before to establish yourself. So the housing market is very dear, which is good for people who are in the market, but it's actually a barrier of entry until the amount of large corporate is still limited. So we have large companies, but they are not majorly large. There is also a lot of activity around the primary industries and horticulture in particular that has driven more on the technology and agri-tech type activities, which led us to think, okay, we need more people. But did we need more people, or did we need to grow the talent we have here so that they could participate in this type of economy that was clearly designed, and the picture for it is made really clear in the local narrative? And I think that this is where Venture Center has been able to refine, you know, the impact that it's aiming for, or what we're trying to do by focusing on the people, is so that we can help our local community participate in this economy as well as and alongside the talented people that may come and be attracted to come here. So this has really been a driving factor for us to refine in which way we could help doing that.
What's your sort of vision, or what else do you think is possible in terms of economic diversity for your area in the future? Are there any particular industries or verticals that you think there's an opportunity to really specialize in?
That's a really good question, Richard. It's because being quite also immersed in the mission and the vision of Venture Center for an entrepreneurial community locally, I think I would err on the side of I think that this is kind of well catered for. For instance, we also have tech incubator with WNT Ventures in Toronga that is creating a lot of activity around motivating people to actually take knowledge from this research institute, etc. But while it is located in Toronga, most of its activity is not actually based in Toronga. So with a new university, which opened last year, right here in Toronga CBD, that might be some place where there could be some development. We also have a large organization called PlantTech, which is a consortium of local technology companies that have actually are collaborating into the development of technology around this a particular aspect of our economy. So yes, there is this vertical, if it's such a word that fits this conversation, there is this environment in Toronga that exists. Having said that, and if I put back my Venture Center lens, that is kind of this community-based development, if we want, for use entrepreneurship as a tool of community development rather than product development. I think that one space for innovation that is not tapped into yet in Toronga is actually something that fits in enhanced participation of our and diversity of participation in the economy. And by that I mean that we have a plethora of newcomers, and they might be coming from foreign countries, or they might be coming from other areas of New Zealand. We have also who have experienced other ways of doing, other ways of participating. We also have a very rich tapestry of socially minded organizations who are also exploring other ways of doing and being, including entrepreneurship, including looking for sustainability. And they are at the heart of the more social, economical, environmental challenges that they see. So this is where entrepreneurship per se as a tool could be better leveraged. And that's where Venture Center is a bit in the middle of this and helping with the tools, traditional tools of capitalism, entrepreneurship, actually help transfer the same tools so that community groups, as well as individuals, can leverage this. And if this is successful, this is the type of impact that we'd like to see for our region. And this is also, I think, the future of future-proofing us away from verticals, because it would build in the resilience and the necessary and the skills and the mindset so that people can keep moving on with the needs and wants that their community emerge, because they are rightfully equipped with these tools of entrepreneurship.
To me, I totally agree that the big issues of society in the world today, they're going to be solved by entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, more than anyone else.
The good thing is that this vision it's emergent, and it's shaped with the many in our ecosystem that are actually, and I mean, right here in New Zealand, many organizations are looking at innovation and innovation for impact and social innovation. And this is where I feel sometimes I'm a little stretched, because I feel I'm straddling between, like the startup getting started, lean canvas, MVP, getting going, testing, have we got a market, what's the, all of those things. But then there's also, how do we engage with the community so that they can see that this is something that everyone can use, that it's not in the hands of a few corporates who are trying to do things better. And that is one of the core reasons why we're here. And that's more about human development rather than venture development.
So can we talk now, Pascal, just a little bit about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in your region in particular? We were hearing from other regions, about how it's impacted them in slightly different ways. What did that all sort of look like, and what's your take on how the region has responded?
The first thing that I saw was a whole lot of business people trying to help each other. At the time of lockdown, what is happening in Tauranga is a whole lot of group of people started coming together, offering support to one another, actually sharing services, and it was emerging. We even wrote a blog, we just wrote the blog, and within 2 weeks of COVID lockdown, there were maybe 10 groups going in Tauranga, to support. So that's one thing that I saw, is like, hey, we have a big problem and we need to do this together in a way that I had not witnessed before. Okay, so that was one thing. The second thing that we could see quite close was because we engage with an organization here in town called Downtown Tauranga, which is an organization of the retailers and hospitality owners in the CBD. There was a lot of people who obviously had a lot of fears around, I can't trade. So there was this that was really real. And again, they came together, and very, very, very quickly, there started to emerge some examples of, hey, but what could we do with this? And they were all local, and they were shared, and that really brought to the front one conversation that matters, was the use of digital. And that is something that Venture Center has been really keen to support, is how digital supports entrepreneurial, and both things can't be done in isolation. So needs around e-commerce and people coming in and helping and giving example, and new platforms coming up. So there was all of this happening. And a lot of exchange, and a lot of projection, what might it be like, and certainly some fear of what it could be like, fear of this unknown. I think there was also, during that lockdown period, that would be the last thing, is that we did hear in all the groups of support that we were participating in, people were taking time to take stock. After this initial maybe 10 days or 2 weeks of that shell shock of what's going on, we could hear a lot of stories of our small businesses or entrepreneurs who knew that things were actually going downhill and they might be worth doing nothing about, okay, but let go, was actually, hey, I've got nowhere else to rush to. Can I take stock? So that was an interesting thing that I had noticed. Then level 3 came, then level 2, and then I don't even remember being in lockdown. Do you, Richard? What's happened since? But and because we've been fortunate to be in this country where, yes, there's been another episode, and not being in Auckland, I haven't lived it in the same way. But yes, so there is this magic attitude of all this team of 5 million to pull in that direction, to have to face that sanitary crisis, so that, you know, we're talking on, we could be in the same room. It's just geographically it wouldn't be practical. And that is unique. So many countries in the world cannot do that yet. So that's something that matters to me. As a result of this, what we could see, and if we look at this economic monitor that the local EDA, Priority One, publishes every 2 months, you know, the levels of traffic in our city have gone back up. Okay, so that can be an indicator, right? The port activity is on and on, which is a driver right here in Tauranga. There's a lot of wealth that is derived from this massive port activity that gets put into the infrastructure. I mean, yeah, you were asking, you know, if you don't know Tauranga, Tauranga is very, very narrow. And for those who listen that have not been here or have not got a view of what it's like, it's actually not really easy to move in Tauranga if there's more traffic. So that's one of these recurring things. How do we make our roads better? Well, right now, the money from this comes from this port activity, which supports this type of activity. So that's big infrastructure work. Then there is also other things around the retail is gone back up. We don't know where people are spending because the CBD is a little bit worse for wear right now. Is it COVID? Is it something else? You know, there's a lot of theories happening. We also know that the organization that feed the homeless are busier than ever. We also know that the Tauranga Food Bank is giving away more food. It's tapered back down again, but there's also, they are doing things differently. So in terms of the distribution, so it's changing their data. So I could see that it wasn't a clear thing. So there is that aspect of Tauranga. And there is also the other thing is that the rise of the inequalities across various areas of Tauranga is really quite striking. What is COVID directly related? I don't know. But what has COVID made those who were in a precarious situation prior has definitely made it worse. Those who had enough to wade through this certainly have made it through, and small business now are making it really, you know, are saying we've got what we need. Have you tried to talk to your accountant in Tauranga? You need to book for 3 weeks in advance because everyone is busy, you know, so there is a high level of activity at that level.
Pascal, can I just ask you, are there any particular highlights that stand out for you in this crazy year known as 2020? What are some of the good things that you've seen going on? One
thing was to see people pull together. That really, you know, like as I described, so, you know, small businesses, kind of business owners coming together, chatting. I think this is really something that if we can harness it, we can really get this, what we call that community-led moving, so that people stop asking others to say, do this for me. Actually, we can do it. And I think that's something that was a strong marker of change. And that social innovation I'm talking about that I'm seeing in the future. So that's one thing. The second thing is the amount of activity that we've seen at Venture Center of individuals coming to find us as a place where they could talk safely about something they wanted to restart or something that hadn't worked. And that was that's been very, very humbling, and it's meant for our small team. There's 5 of us working at Venture Center. So, you know, all of these things I say, I do that, I actually don't, you know, like it's not all me, right? But it's been really, really interesting for us to actually rethink completely how might we be of support at any given time, and what is the voice we need to have, what is the way that we put our stance when people come into the door, so that they can actually talk in safely, never in confidence, because we tell people we can't be in confidence because we need to help, and I can't help, but I might know somebody who can help. But being a place where we can take this, we've had a couple of stories. I'll just share that one story with an entrepreneur who happens to be a furniture designer, and he always saw what he did at some stage, some place in the market, and position its art and his portfolio at a certain level. And he's a local person, and during COVID, he actually put this on the New Zealand local page. Do you remember that page? That I think it morphed to become some called Choice. I can't remember what it is. And it was the first time that he got thousands of likes and messages of encouragement, etc., which is getting him to think, how might I actually commercialize in another way what I am doing, so that I can appeal to more people and be affordable to more people. So this type of journey is the type of entrepreneurs that come to Venture Center, because our clinics, venture navigation, digital assessment, we've got this suite of services, so people can come in through any of those doors. And yes, so that's a very interesting journey for an entrepreneur that is rethinking completely how he might have a market through this impetus. He never looked at social media before COVID.
Can I ask you, what is it that you really love and appreciate about Tauranga and the Bay of Plenty?
So I arrived here 21 years ago. So I'm a local. I'm more local than so many around me. Okay, so this is my Tauranga YY. Okay, this is where I live and I stand from. But what I love here is that there is an energy combined with a laid backness. That's not a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I love to be able to play at that intersection, so that we can leverage the energy but temper it down by being laid back, so that we can do things that have not been done before. And Tauranga is brilliant like this. You know the thing, okay, yeah, I'll take that job because I can go for a surf at lunchtime. This is what we hear. But it is also real of the entrepreneurs and freelancers who work from our co-working space, base station. This is real. People shoot off when the tide's in, or where the surf is up, and they come back after. It is a real thing. But there's also a strong sense of a lifestyle that is focused on family, that is actually bringing people here. And ultimately, I think that this is a really awesome recipe for this vision of Aotearoa and the well-being way that it procures us, so that this is not that, the tech Silicon Valley, dog eat dog, me first type place that wouldn't work for me, and that's why I'm not there. But there is this combined element. There is the sea breeze, like there's plenty now, although it's been really hot this afternoon. There is also a very strong sense of old Tauranga versus emerging new Tauranga, and this is actually something that is creating opportunities for change. And there's also another element that is emerging, is how our Maori economy can actually come to the fore, and that's the next frontier. When you were talking about, what is a sector, and I'm not placed to discuss very well what I described just now as Maori economy, but this is the next engine, and it's happening, and it's creating many, many different drivers to look at doing business in a completely different way. And I'm very excited to see of what it might actually bring to Tauranga Moana, what it's going to change around. And it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be a long journey, but it's going to be a worthwhile one.
Pascal, do you have any sort of last messages you'd like to share with people of Tauranga or Bay of Plenty, or people watching from around New Zealand?
I would like to think that we can all come together in the various parts of the country to actually have more of an Aotearoa New Zealand voice, so that it could actually be our secret weapon from down under. I would like to see the informal connections that exist within various group organization, not formalized, but actually being enabled in a better way. And I don't know what that looks like. I have, for instance, been involved with Startup Weekend since 2013 as organizers or facilitator. And I think that those type of grassroots movement have a lot to inform on what a New Zealand ecosystem might look like. It's distributed, it's passion-driven, it's purpose-driven as well, rather than formalized and top-down. It's emerging from the bottom up. I think that these type of metaphors help me form that view for the future, where every single one of us working in our regions trying and doing, no one is trying, everyone is doing, and doing is good, okay? But how can we actually pull together towards a similar vision? And rather than being given the vision, I'd love the opportunity to co-design the vision from the ground up.
Pascal, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
All the best to you and the team up there in Tauranga. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Richard, and I look forward to speak with you again and review all of the other people you're interviewing for this series. So thank you for the opportunity.